Up, everybody? This is the Week 17 edition of the Fantasy Insiders Daily NFL Show. We have on the show our regular cast of characters: Davis Maddox Hare, Dan Gasper, Mr. Tuttle, and Evan Silva from RotoWorld.com. I will let Davis's hair take it away.
Hey, well, my hair can't talk, but I can.
Well, it's pretty
This is
loud.
it. This is it, you guys. It's the last week of real, legit, full team NFL daily fantasy, and I'm not that sad to see it go. In all reality, I think Dan kind of feels the same way. It's so hard juggling all the different sports going on right now. It's like I woke up this morning at 8 o'clock to do soccer, and then had to do my NFL article, and then NBA is going to be is locks in 2 hours. Where are you at with the NFL season, Evan? Are you sad to see the regular season go?
I'm not sad to see season long that grind go away.
Mm-hmm.
That's draining. But I'm sad to see the DFS go. I mean, it's a lot of fun. You know, for the most part, we've had a good deal of success on this show, and really, this show has been the highlight of my week because it's like at the end of the week, you know, there's not a whole lot of work left to do, and we can just kind of shoot the shit on this show, and I've enjoyed that. So I'll definitely miss the show.
Yeah, I'm gonna miss the show too because normally this signifies my weekend, right? Like this is like the last
Right.
thing that I have to do. Dan has no idea what we're talking about.
No.
Dan's like, what?
What is a weekend?
You guys have to set alarms. Like Dan just has an alarm every day. It's his two crying children.
Yeah, pretty much.
Evan, you should give a rundown of all the teams who don't have any motivation and therefore you just don't want any players from those teams.
Well, I would love to do that, except I would end up missing teams
So are there
because I didn't make it because I didn't make a list of anything like that.
right.
And every team would be qualified. So we can talk about that over the course of this show, but just to ask me to rattle off, team names, I wouldn't be able to do it with any kind of accuracy.
The one that I know,
it's a good idea, and it's something that we need to discuss. It's just
yeah, it's just a list. Let me see if
Right.
I can find a list real quick. I know the first team that I think people just automatically look at their stuff every single week is the Colts. Don't want any part of that. Don't want Moncrief. Don't want Hilton. Don't want Luck. Don't want Dan Herron. Don't want Dwayne Allen. Because they showed last week, if things aren't firing on all cylinders for them, it goes downhill super, super quickly. I think, here, this is the first interesting one to talk about. The Baltimore Ravens against the Cleveland Browns and Connor Shaw. Justin Forsett has just been terrible for the last 2 weeks. He had 10 carries for 19 yards last week, but Cleveland now has the worst rush defense in the league by adjusted DVOA. What do you think about Justin Forsett this week, Dan?
I was looking into him too, and you do look at his game logs and you get scared off a little bit, but I mean, the matchups there, like you mentioned, and it's a game scenario where you would imagine that he would get a lot of work and be able to do something with that work. I know TJ Hernandez, one of our contributors, one of the main things that I think he'll write up basically every single week is a running back that's at home, that's a heavy favorite. And that's Justin Forsett. And Forsett gets the good matchup this week to go along with it.
it's also C.J. Anderson, by the way. But
Yes,
Justin
C.J.
Forsett.
Anderson is a better play.
Anytime an old guy starts struggling, especially late in the season, it scares me. Number one. And number two, the Ravens are going to be without their left tackle, Eugene Monroe, listed as doubtful, and their right tackle, Rick Wagner, who they placed on injured reserve with a Liz Frank fracture. So I agree with everything that you guys just said, but, there are also reasons for concern. The offensive line has been shaken up, and he's an old guy who's struggling late in the season.
Yeah, I think all of that definitely makes sense. So Denver has a chance to get the number one or the number two seed locked up with a win, correct?
Exactly.
So CJ Anderson is a 14-point favorite against Oakland. I mean, he's literally been the only thing that's worked about their offense the last 2 weeks. Like I just
Exactly.
he's not priced appropriately.
Nope.
Do you want to talk about your boy Jeremy Hill against Pittsburgh?
I mean, Jeremy Hill is a beast, and when the coaching staff cooperates, he destroys, and that has been the case for most of the season. I'm looking at other RBs this week, but I don't think he's a bad play at all. I mean, the Steelers don't have a good defense, and he's awesome.
What do you think about that one, Dan?
I think Jeremy Hill may very well be second C.J. Anderson, in the sense that his price just doesn't go up like C.J. Anderson's doesn't, and he's getting a tremendous workload. So I definitely like him this week. He's 7,300, I believe, on FanDuel and 6,000 on DraftKings. I mean, he's priced at a price that you can exploit.
Let me give you two concerns for him. He lost a fumble in the last game, and I think he has like 5 fumbles now on the season. And Giovanni Bernard played well, so that the combination of those two things for me makes him a little bit more of a tournament play than a cash game play. But yeah, I mean, look, I'm not betting against Jeremy Hill at all because he's awesome.
I think it should be noted too that while he's still getting a workload as far as carries go, he's only had 1 reception over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's not what he does. Gio's pretty much taken that over. But I mean, Evan, sometimes when you eat so much, sometimes a little bit spills off your plate, and that's all that it is with Hill. He's just eating so much, and sometimes just a little bit gets away, and that's okay. They're going to keep feeding him.
No, he beats up the defense, and then little scat back Gio can go in and get 2 and 3 yard gains, and those pile up, But no, I'm just kidding. Love Jeremy Hill.
Yeah. In terms of high-priced running backs, I think this is probably the first time I've written up Arian Foster since like week 5. But he has 24 or more carries in each of his last 3 games. Houston needs some help, but can make the playoffs with a win, and they have a really good matchup. And he's significantly cheaper than Le'Veon Bell. Where are you at with that, Dan?
I like him. I think I still... Tweaking lineups, I think I'd still try to force Le'Veon in before Arian Foster, once you take price into consideration. I think even when that's into consideration, I think Bell's still the better play. But I do like Foster. I think an interesting strategy to go, and we'll get there a little later, because there is a decent amount of value across the industry. I think an intriguing way to go would be to pair Le'Veon Bell and Arian Foster and kind of skimp elsewhere.
Here's the thing. I'm playing Odell Beckham this week. I'm just doing it. There's no way you're talking me out of it. So to get Odell Beckham, Arian Foster, and Le'Veon Bell into a lineup, you have to commit to Chase Daniel and a minimum price tight end. Which, I mean, this week this is not a week where you're just like, okay, I'm going to put Gronkowski in there because he'll probably only play a half. Now, granted, 1/2 of Rob Gronkowski is probably better than most tight ends in football, but where are you just leaning in terms of lineup construction right now, Evan? Where are you thinking you're going to be spending your big bucks?
Definitely going cheap at quarterback. The 2 quarterbacks that I've looked at are Chase Daniel and RG3. RG3 is only 6,600 on FanDuel. I don't think very much of the Cowboys' defense, and the Cowboys could also put themselves in a situation where they aren't playing all their starters in the fourth quarter. They do have a lot to gain by winning this game, and I think that they probably will. But I don't know. I like RG3 and I like Chase Daniel, and then if you want to go up for any other guys who are good plays, you got to start really skimping elsewhere. I like Bridgewater, but he's 900 more than RG3 and 2,500 more than Chase Daniel, and I really like Eli Manning. But again, you keep moving up, and you got to take lesser players elsewhere. So I'm pretty much focused on RG3 and Chase Daniel.
I think the direction that I'm going sort of the most is Teddy Bridgewater right now. I just feel like the Bears have given up so many passing touchdowns. They've given up 33 passing touchdowns. I like his weapons more. I like Greg Jennings and Charles Johnson more than I like Deshaun Jackson and whoever else. They have, I guess, Pierre Garçon. I feel like maybe he's hurt. I just don't pay attention to that franchise. They're like not options for me in DFS. So, but yeah, what do you think about Teddy Bridgewater this week, Dan?
I like I think it's an interesting conversation on DraftKings where you do have a string of quarterbacks so closely knit in price, like RG3, Teddy Bridgewater. They're within a couple hundred of each other. Andy Dalton, I could see some people even going that range or that direction. He's right there in the same price range too. Whereas on FanDuel, it's a little more of a decision because, as Evan noted, then on FanDuel you have to pay $900 more for Bridgewater on FanDuel over Robert Griffin. I see the merits of both, and I think it almost comes down to salary savings on FanDuel.
I mean, Teddy Bridgewater, here's a crazy stat. He is the only rookie quarterback ever to have 4 games in a row of a 70% completion percentage. Like, I think he has. I mean, I've learned my lesson with projecting crazy floors for quarterbacks, so I'm never going to do that again. But I feel like a decent median projection for him is like 312 yards and 2 touchdowns, which is like really good for what you're paying for him.
That's
by the way,
crazy median projection.
Oh,
yeah, that would be on the high end.
And by the way, how did it go with those people who started Alex Smith last week?
How did it go for people who used Drew Brees last week?
A little bit better than Alex Smith.
I mean, maybe
we got
like,
a TD. We got a TD.
We got a TD, so that was great for us. Oh man, how brutal! How brutal!
I knew
is
it was
Drew
going to
Brees?
happen.
Like once everyone universally like agreed, like, oh no, dude, Brees is fine.
He plays awesome when no one is
on him,
and then he plays terrible when I don't know. He's probably going to light it up this week too.
Against Tampa Bay, dude, he's going 400 yards, 4 touchdowns. Jimmy Graham's scoring 3 of them too, guaranteed. Lock that up.
An absolute.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about C.J. Anderson. I've had some questions. People concerned about Ronnie Hillman. Just not a concern for me at this point. I mean, maybe he goes out and gets 5 to 7 touches. Maybe he takes the Juwan Thompson role, but I really like the idea of C.J. Anderson plus the Broncos D.
So here's the thing about the Broncos D, and this is going to be pretty like personally biased, but it just feels like they do really well in DVOA and they don't give up a ton of cheap points, but they also don't generate a ton of turnovers, and they might generate QB pressures but not get sacks a whole lot. And I mean, that's the thing about Carr is Carr doesn't get sacked a whole lot. He gets rid of the ball or whatever else. Like, he's not crazy efficient. So they wouldn't be on like my top 5 defenses I'm trying to use, but like in a GPP, I do like that combination. Dan?
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, it's defense.
Dan hates
defense.
fantasy defenses so
much. I do. I mean, where else are you going to go is the question. I mean, you can go obviously pay out for the Seahawks. Texans are obviously in a good spot against Jacksonville. Do any of you have a cheap defense you're looking at? Would be the only really pivot off it. I mean, I think the Broncos are
the Vikings.
Perfectly fine position.
Vikings versus Cutler.
Vikings at home against Cutler.
Cutler's going to come in and shred.
No, Cutler's going to come in and say, Tressman, you bench me. Look at this effort you're about to get. And he's about to just sit down on the turf and huck passes.
He's auditioning.
I could see it going either way. I mean, I have no idea what to expect from Cutler.
I mean, Cutler. Here's the thing: Cutler's getting his money regardless. Like he's got a lot of guaranteed money.
Right, Alfred Morris.
No.
Okay, I mean he's awesome.
I'm fine with it.
He's awesome with RG3 whenever RG3 is at quarterback.
No, he is. But how many points are they going to lose this game by? Just doesn't set up as a good game script for him.
I don't know, man. This is the Redskins Super Bowl.
I wouldn't trust this organization, this coach, this quarterback, these coordinators in any sort of important setting. This is a really, really bad football team with a lot of discord, man. You hear the way Jay Gruden talks. Could you imagine if that dude was your boss? I would quit on that guy.
All right, Falcons RBs.
I'm not partial to either one of them. But I could see Jaquiz Rodgers getting 4 catches for 12 yards and 12 carries for 48 yards and maybe a touchdown.
Agree.
Do you like Devontae Freeman at all, Dan? Do you know who that is, Dan?
Oh, I traded for Devontae Freeman in my one dynasty league that I play because he was packaged in with a must-get quarterback influenced by Davis Maddock, and that would be Cam Newton. So I traded for Devontae Freeman. But anyways, yes, of course I know who Devontae Freeman is. No, I'm not interested in playing, even at their price, I'm not interested in trying to predict the workload for either one. I think I agree with you guys in the fact that Rodgers is probably going to get the majority of snaps. He'll probably get even the majority of carries, and even though it's going to be probably closely split, but I don't think there's a whole lot of upside with either one.
I feel like they're going to be really high owned though. Like people love the min price RB play. They really like it, as we learned during the Alfred Blue days.
I'm paying up for RB this week, big time. Putting in Le'Veon everywhere. Putting in CJ Anderson too.
See, I think
Soccer Dave
is
loves
the way to go.
Soccer Dave does love it. I mean, CJ Anderson, dude, he's been a must play for 6 weeks in a row.
How is he still only the RB8 on FanDuel? I mean, he's easily top 5, arguably top 3. Something
in their algorithm must have like season long parameters in it that he hasn't crossed over yet. Like a way to protect against replaceability, so they don't have like a backup running back who comes in for one game and gets 200 yards and 2 touchdowns shooting up. Or I don't know. I think a more interesting question, Evan, I'm really interested on your take on this. Do you think there's any chance Jamal Charles does not play on Sunday?
No, I think he's definitely playing.
I just saw a tweet right before we came on that he's questionable with hamstring and knee stuff, and they're already sitting Smith. Just give me like a probability, like 5%, 3%.
5% that he sits.
Okay. All right. If he sits,
I know. I saw that he was listed as questionable. I was like, man, Davis is going to say on the show that he isn't playing, and Niall Davis. I mean,
hashtag the year that Niall Davis took Jamal.
The year that Niall. I mean, if they want to win this game, they know which running back they should have in there. Okay. Serious question though. This is a really bizarre thing about Andy Reid. In every start Niall Davis has ever had, he's had more than 20 touches. But Jamal Charles randomly has weeks where he gets 8 carries. So I don't know what it is in Andy Reid's brain that switches when Niall Davis is in there, but they run the ball with him way more than they do with Charles, which is crazy. But I'm just saying, though, if Charles doesn't go, Niall Davis must play. Get him in every lineup, every side.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that pretty much covers the RBs. You guys got anybody else?
Yeah, there's one more.
Okay.
If Ryan Matthews doesn't go, which it's looking like he's not going to, Brandon Oliver against the Chiefs' awful run defense. I think that he's like, I mean, he's not as good as Niall Davis, but he's sort of that similar. Like, I think he's min price, FanDuel and DraftKings. Would you be all over that, Dan? So you could play 2 elite wide receivers.
I don't know. I like I said before, I'm wanting to pay up at running back. Like I have no problem going cheap with RG3, cheap at tight end, and going Le'Veon Bell, CJ Anderson, Le'Veon Bell, Arian Foster. Like I have no problem doing that at all. And I think that's the direction I'll likely end up. And however, if you do want to go kind of lower end, a guy that we haven't touched on, but I know a lot of guys are talking about, is Jonathan Stewart against Atlanta. Are you guys on that bandwagon or no?
I'm not, but I don't have any problem with it.
Same. It's just like I haven't used him any of this time. He's been the starter just because. I guess the weird thing is it's sort of some bias that like Cam Newton is probably the best goal line runner in football, but because of his injury stuff, they haven't used him that way this year. So there's definitely more upside to Stewart than like my like fantasy brain is processing because they're just not using Cam that way. So I don't really have a problem with it, but
yeah, with Jonathan Stewart, I'm always thinking of reasons to not use him.
Yeah,
like Cam Newton and Mike Tolbert and his injury history and et cetera, et cetera. But people have definitely profited from him over the last month.
Yeah. Okay. So let's move to wide receiver talk. Odell Beckham, most expensive wide receiver, both sides, I believe. I don't have prices up right now. I'm just playing him. Like, I'm just not leaving anything to chance. I don't care if he gets me 5 for 50. I'm playing him. Do either one of you disagree with that?
I got him in everywhere.
Dan?
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, just because it hurts me double, like when he goes off, like because
it's an emotional hedge.
So if he goes off and I don't have him in daily, it's like so much worse. But then when he goes off and I have him, everyone who tweets at me, I can just tweet a link of games that I have him in and be like, oh, that's fun. That's fun that you're doing this while I'm making money. So yeah, I'm definitely playing him. Outside of him, is there any like super expensive wide receiver that you really like this week, Evan?
Love Demarius. It's tough to get both Beckham and Demarius in though.
Yeah, it is. It's hard not to love him. The only thing is we know if they get a lead, they're shutting it down now. Like Peyton is not gunning anymore. He was right. Running the ball down 2 scores in Cincinnati. They were calling run plays. So it's just, I don't know. Do you have any explanation for it? Have you heard anything inside the organization about why this is happening, or is it just him getting old?
Yeah, Elway told me that.
No, don't be that way. There are reports. I don't follow football super closely once NBA starts. I just do it for daily fantasy, so I don't hear these things.
No, I think that your initial hypothesis was correct. That Peyton kind of realized that he's not going to be setting all the records this year, so they scaled it back. And I mean, I think it's also fair to worry about Peyton Manning's physical skills and his decline late in the season. I mean, we've seen him slow down now, relatively speaking, in back-to-back years, and he also had some struggles in the playoffs following the 2012 season. So, look, man, he's old, and I don't know. I think he still might light up Oakland. Love him as a GPP play with Demarius. And we've said that a few times over the last month, and it didn't work out. I don't know about a few times, but at least once, I think against San Diego. And it did not work out. That just turned into a field goal fest.
Dan was all over that.
That was Connor Barth week.
Let's go. Give me some. You got to give me some slack. I didn't predict a Peyton Manning injury that game as well.
No, it was
illness.
It was good process. I mean, it's just, and I agree. Dan said last week that probably Peyton is going to have another monster week, at least one more, and this would be a good spot for it. Good weather, really bad defense, home game. I mean, he could easily light it up. That
was the Manziel weekend, though, right? So I'm sure you did better than me that weekend, anyways, Dan. So that was fun. Mid-tier wide receivers. Obviously, Kelvin Benjamin against Atlanta. I mean, he's having like the homeless wide receivers version of Odell Beckham's season, where he just does it week in and week out, and he's making spectacular catches. The totals haven't been there, like in terms of like raw yards, but he's having a really good season. So I think he's another really good sort of mid-tier wide receiver play. Are you on him, Evan?
I mean, I don't have him in, but I do like him. I may have some bias against him because he's burned me a few times.
Yeah.
And I kind of don't love his game. He has like 0 run after catch ability. But I mean, the targets have been consistent, and he's a TD scorer, so he checks a lot of boxes. He's playing indoors in December. You can't beat that.
Well, he is slow though. Like, he's not fast.
Yeah,
he's not
right.
People downfield. But
that too.
What about you, Dan? Are you on board with that this week, or are you just going other directions?
I like the matchup. I think it's good. I'll probably end up somewhere else. I think Mike Evans is a better play in a similar price range. He's only $200 more.
Same here.
I like him more. I like, even for less, I like Deshaun Jackson. I think against the Cowboys secondary, I like Deshaun Jackson for $400 less. And
I like Evans more.
Yeah, I mean, Evans, I think, is the top play in that 7,000 range on FanDuel. Another guy that GPP only, but is in play, that nobody's going to be on in that range, is Josh Gordon.
Yep.
I know it's unappealing with Connor Shaw throwing to him, but it can't really get much worse than what it's been.
Connor Shaw was going to be a fullback in the NFL.
Connor Shaw is better than Johnny Manziel.
That just happened.
Okay, so this is the part where
Davis can't defend himself.
No, first of all, there's no defending Manziel. I mean, he has been all-time terrible.
He's awful
while he's been on the field. He's bad. I'm ready to just take that L. I'm pretty good at taking L's.
7 quarters in.
7 quarters in, he's never gonna play. Connor Shaw is bad though too.
Yeah, I mean the Ravens give up the 3rd most fantasy points to receivers. It's a tournament play. That's what it is, and he could go off. If Connor Shaw throws him the ball a lot against those weak ass Ravens cornerbacks.
So I think what should happen is Andrew Hawkins just plays quarterback, and they just do or they just put Gordon at quarterback and do a triple option with West and Crow back there. I don't see any way that this fails. Or just Wildcat, dude. Just 4-yard runs up the gut every snap. Dude, Connor Shaw is really bad, Evan.
Okay, I mean, whatever. So are the Ravens cornerbacks.
That's true. What happened? Is it just Jimmy Smith was keeping them together, and then once he fell, it all went downhill?
Yeah, and I mean, they haven't gotten the performance from Ladarius Webb that they anticipated, and they've lost it. I mean, they've got 6 cornerbacks on IR right now.
Yeah, that's true.
And Matt Elam, I mean, they drafted him in the 1st round, and he's basically a bust, but they're forced to play him because of all the injuries.
Yeah, he was for a while. He was the worst rated defensive back in pass coverage on PFF.
So if you're on Bridgewater this week, got to be on Charles Johnson.
He's my cover boy. Yeah, I don't see any way. Well, I gotta stop saying these things. I think he has a really good shot for 100 yards and a touchdown. I just feel like that's. I mean, he's been so good, and he never leaves the field. He plays 95% of his team snaps. He just never gets off the field. So when Bridgewater is dropping back to pass, he's going to be there. So I just don't see. And he's still so cheap, dude. I don't know. Am I being ridiculous, Dan?
I don't think so. He is really cheap still. I mean, 6,100 on FanDuel. What is he over on DraftKings?
4,600.
46. I like him quite a bit. I mean, especially if you're kind of taking the route Evan and I am, you can do it on DraftKings pretty easily if you just start out with Teddy Bridgewater and Charles Johnson the stack. So I like Charles Johnson this week.
I mean, do either one of you want to cape up for Greg Jennings or Jerry Stride? This is normally where JJ would come in and be like, dude, Greg Jennings, bro. Greg Jennings, man. No, I'm just saying that's what he would do, and he missed his opportunity on air this week to do that.
I also kind of like Doug Baldwin against the Rams. Obviously not the upside of Charles Johnson, but he killed them in Week 7. He killed the Rams in Week 7. No Jermaine Kearse. He will not play, and the Rams are without their best cornerback, E.J. Gaines. So it's a great matchup for Doug Baldwin, and he could see a lot of targets with no Kearse.
Dude, my favorite thing in the world is when what's that cornerback's name? Jermaine Jones.
Janoris Jenkins?
Janoris Jenkins, the Rams cornerback, when he gets burnt and then looks at his teammates like it's their fault. That's my favorite thing in the world. Because he's like a basketball player that way. Like when he gets blown by on D and they're yelling at their teammates, that's Janoris Jenkins.
Okay. So let's talk about some super cheap receivers.
Nick Toon, baby. Still played.
I'm on Tune too, man. I mean, he again ran more pass routes than Stills.
Yep. It's just I don't know. If you think the Breeze is going to have some semblance of a bounce back game, he's going to be a part of it. And last week, everything went as bad as it could have possibly gone, and he still got the 3 for 40. So, I don't know. Dan, is that are we just going back to the well, or is there some hashtag process there?
I think there's something there. I think the Saints team in general, and possibly Breeze, you might want to be wary of just as far as motivation goes. A player like Nick Toon, he's obviously it's so hard to predict because these guys are professionals and you expect them to play hard no matter what. But it is a letdown spot for the.
See, but
for
the thing is,
Saints.
Tune is like
Is he in a contract here, by the way?
no third year, but he could be cut because he's on like a
Mhm.
third or fourth round rookie salary, so he
Oh,
could get
yeah.
cut.
Yeah,
He
I'm
needs
not
tape.
worried about Tune.
He needs
I'm worried
good
about
tape.
Breeze getting him the ball.
Yeah, he needs good. Yeah, very very good point. He needs good tape for sure to be brought back to not be replaced. And I mean, yeah, Breeze is definitely like he's gonna come out there and whelp around, but Breeze also cares about his numbers, and so he's gonna. Oh man, hot take time. Breeze cares about his numbers and about his legacy. How far away is Drew Brees from like benchmarks right now? I'm about to look how far away he is from like 4,500 yards. Because like this,
he's gonna go burn it up.
He's
I mean,
over 4,500.
I'm not putting him anywhere, but he's gonna tear it up.
dude, he totally is. He's such a prick.
Just to troll us. That's all he's gonna do.
Dude, he leads the NFL in passing yards, and he's been one of the worst daily fantasy plays imaginable.
I got another punt wide receiver.
Hit me.
Dontrell Inman
Yep.
played
Yeah,
played 65% of the Chargers snaps last week. Saw 9 targets. They benched Ejiro Tutu at halftime. He was their third receiver, and then they put Dontrell Inman in the Keenan Allen role. And I mean, Dontrell Inman went to work. 6'3", 198, coming out of Virginia, 4'4", 740. So he's got some nice little measurables, and I think he'll get the full workload this week after he played well. I mean, he was racking up first downs, and his price on FanDuel is $4,800. So this is my. From 2 weeks ago, we kind of nailed Marcus Wilson. Last week nailed T. Will. And this week,
no, that was all you. I was on Albert Wilson and Nick Toon. T. Will was all you.
We're a team, bro. Okay,
Yeah. Team pockets on full.
No,
right,
team
so-
FIGADH.
So Dontrell Inman, either play him or remember that name.
Yeah.
Can I?
Trevor actually wrote him up, and Evan mentioned that he took over later in the game. Once he entered the game, he played 55 of the Chargers' final 57 snaps.
Perfect.
So can I rain just like a little bit of parade, or a little bit on this parade? Not that I don't think he's a fine daily fantasy play, but in terms of ceiling, dude weighs 185 pounds at 6'3". That's
No, dude. Where did you find that? Like on Pro Football Reference?
no on his combine stuff.
No, he's 198 at his pro day, man.
I just had it up.
Let me
pull it
Google
back up.
Dontrell Inman NFL Draft Scout, and they'll show you his pro day numbers.
You're right. They had it different than Walter Football, but 198 is still like that's Justin Hunter. Just in case anyone wants a physical comp, that's like Justin Hunter size.
All right, so that didn't deter me at all. Another thing that I like about Inman is that those cornerbacks for Kansas City are they're big physical press corners. So theoretically, they should be difficult matchups for Malcolm Floyd. And then the Chiefs have really shut down the tight end pretty much all season. I think they have allowed the fewest receptions and fewest yards to tight ends. So it sets up well for a receiver who's going to go in and run those Keenan Allen type routes. Like they'll almost just let him get open, as long as he's not burning anybody downfield.
I do kind of like Gates this week. Just because I feel like with Matthews and Allen out, Rivers will kind of just go to what he knows, And how long have him and Gates been throwing? Have been, whatever. A lot of narrative this week.
Hey, well, I mean, tight end's bad this week though too.
Yeah,
like we mentioned before, you don't have your Rob Gronkowski to go. Well, you still can go to Gronkowski, but it's not a surefire thing this week.
Yeah, and with Gronk, man. I don't want to talk people off him, but you could almost see a scenario where he doesn't play at all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
that would shock me. I think.
Okay, I mean it would surprise me, but I think it's within the realm of possibility that they don't play him at all. But the thing is that they have a bye next week as well, so they're going to play these guys most likely at least a quarter, probably a half, quite possibly all 4 quarters. It's just I think you got to look elsewhere because there's so much uncertainty, and you're looking for floors in cash games. The tight end that I really like this week is Kobe Fleener. Dwayne Allen is out, and T.Y. Hilton, I don't think he's going to play a full dose of snaps. So I like Kobe Fleener against Tennessee. I think that he might lead the Colts in targets.
Yeah, I just don't know how valuable that is this week. I don't know. Like Luck might go 11 for 30 for 112 yards and 3 interceptions again.
Luck might go 27 for 35 with 380 yards and 4 TDs this week. The Titans blow. The Titans blow.
How much worse?
Andrew Luck is a competitor. So
then how do you explain? Don't you dare, Evan.
Every quarterback can have a bad game, dude. Aaron Rodgers had a bad game against Buffalo. Peyton Manning has had, a number of bad games. Tom Brady had 3 bad games to open the season. So Andrew Luck had a bad game. And those guys, awesome players, when they have bad games, are always good bets to bounce back. And I think that Andrew Luck will bounce back at Tennessee. I mean, that defense is like barely there.
Yeah, I don't have a huge problem with that. I just don't this week. I want to avoid teams that don't have anything to play for. Although how many other tight ends do they even have on the roster?
They have to play for that. They got their asses beat last week.
Yeah, by the better football team. Go Dallas. I don't know.
I want to bring up something before I forget it because Evan made me think about it when we were talking about Gronk and playing time. I know Evan mentioned in his matchups article with Jonas Gray, who apparently is out now this week. So I wanted your take, Evan. If Gray's out, if Blount is questionable now, but if he's out, where are we looking? Are we going Brandon Bolden? Are we gambling there?
That would be the first guy that I'd look at. But I'm going to put an edit into that and be like, just forget it. Okay. This was stupid to begin with.
It'd be. It's because.
Oh, Bolden could.
He's
could
interesting
nuts,
to me.
Man.
He's more interesting to me than Freeman or Rodgers. Trying to predict there.
Definitely.
I agree with that. I agree with that. And the Bills are without Darius too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
and the Bills.
If Brandon Bolden gets 20 carries, he could go 150 and 2 TDs, no doubt.
Well, and the Bills are just like the ultimate letdown, dude. Like they beat Green Bay and they were all ready to make a playoff run with a little bit of help, and then they lost to the Raiders.
Yeah, they're in.
Yeah,
for sure.
Like if I played for that team, it would be hard for me to give any effort. But I rarely give any effort anyway.
All right. So Davis hates Fleener. Total, what do you think about him?
I like him. We know what he does with Dwayne Allen out. I do prefer a team that's playing for something, but it is tough to predict motivation in that sense. I like Fleener. I like Martellus Bennett. He gets his binky back this week. Jay Cutler should be targeting him a lot, and he has with Brandon Marshall out. So I could see Martellus having a big game. I think I prefer Martellus over Fleener, but I understand the case for both.
Did we say Marcus Wilson? I wanted to ask Evan about Marcus Wilson. Just real quick while we're on Chicago.
What
are you on
talking about?
5,800. I just feel like that's a really good tag for him. He had 8 catches last week?
He had 7, it looks like.
Yeah.
I'd rather start Inman. I'd rather start Dontrell Inman for 1,000 less.
Okay. I don't have a big problem with that. Another victory for JJ Zachary. So my favorite tight end this week is probably Greg Olsen. He had 1 catch last week, but before that he had 2 straight weeks of 10 catches, and then before that 3 straight weeks of at least 5 catches. They have to win this game. Atlanta is just super terrible. What do you think about Greg Olsen, Evan?
I haven't played him all year, and I'm not going to change that.
let's stay stuck in our ways for sure.
Yep. We're not adapting.
In every daily fantasy sport, I have a pool of about 40 to 50 players that are eligible for me.
Baseball, it's narrowed down even more.
Yeah, baseball, it's like 20 guys who I'll ever even consider.
I would just rather play Martellus or Kobe Fleener for cheaper. I mean, that's it.
Yeah. Any thoughts on Robert Griffin's tight end? It's not Colt McCoy's tight end anymore. Jordan Reed is minimum salary on FanDuel.
Yeah, but he also doesn't exist when RG.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't exist at all. But that's a way to make lineups work. But there's a good chance you're going to get stuck with a 0 there. I mean, Kyle Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer.
No.
If you're going with old Teddy B.
No. He's like injured. He's injured, and he's probably not even playing.
Chase Ford, then, right?
Chase Ford. They wanted to get more involved.
No.
I had a buddy text or tweet at me last week. Chase Ford, Charles Clay, or someone else. I'm like, why are you even considering Chase Ford? Go Charles Clay easily.
There was legitimately.
Well, thanks for your advice. I'm going Chase Ford. He says.
Wow. So he left like 15 points on the table. Then.
Pretty much, yeah.
There was legitimately a report from Norv Turner that he wanted to get Chase Ford more involved on offense. That happened.
There you go.
So
my buddy must have saw that. Yeah, he saw the report.
Yeah, man. Weeks without Gronkowski, like, just imagine if Gronk was hurt this year, what we would be doing at tight end. Like, we would still be trying to chase the 2 weeks that Jimmy Graham has been worth it all year. We'd just be fighting after that all season long. Be miserable.
You don't have the safety blanket.
Would you? Here's a question, and then we'll talk about playoff daily fantasy. But I want to ask this first. Would you guys like a site that just added tight ends to the wide receiver pool and priced them appropriately there? Would that just take out a strategic element? Like, I know for college football, they should definitely eliminate the tight end. Like, tight end doesn't really exist for college football. At least in a lot of slates, it's hard to do. Would you like that, Dan?
I say eliminate defense first, and then we'll consider. I think it's fine. I think the tight end position's fine. I don't.
What about you, Evan? See, Evan.
Yeah, I mean,
Evan,
I like it.
Yeah, you're an NFL purist, so you're for sure about that.
Well, there is strategy to it. I mean, we have guys that don't play Gronk, like they don't like sure points. I mean, we've seen
losers.
And we've seen that. So I'd rather not give away what I would consider a strategic edge.
Yeah, and plus, like, before the season, we get to say, yeah, of course you should draft this awesome player, and then other people say, oh no, don't draft that awesome player, and then so that kind of makes us look smart, at the end of the year, and we gotta appreciate that.
Oh, it's so true. So true. Like, how easy is it going to be next year to say Gronk is worth a first-round pick? Like how easy is that going to be to hit publish on? Like, it's gonna be great.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about playoff daily fantasy. Did you play at all last year, Evan?
I did, but that was still in my phase where I was like playing like almost I was playing all tournaments, so I did like a lot of dumb very suboptimal things, and so like just from doing this show, I feel like I've gotten a little bit smarter about it. So I don't know. I mean, what would your advice be? Because what will there be on that first? There will be 8 games, or four games. Yeah, 4 games. So in the wild card round, there are just 4 games. How do you attack that? I would think you would attack it actually from a tournament standpoint, right?
The way that I feel about every sport is that the more games, the more players, the more decisions that someone is forced to make, the greater the edge of someone who knows what's going on is. So I feel like in a sport that's already really volatile, like the NFL just on a regular Sunday slate is already really volatile, I just feel like limiting it to that sphere where there's so much attention and so much analysis, I feel like there's not a huge edge there, right? And so I wouldn't recommend playing it. Like, of course I think you should enter some GPPs and like have fun with it, because daily fantasy at the heart of it, you should enjoy it. It should be fun for you. But I just don't like the idea of like grinding it out for cash games at all.
Yeah. I mean, if you're playing for an entertainment thing, hell yeah, you got to play. Like, it's fun. Why not? But I wouldn't go in expecting to make any sort of profit or expecting to have any sort of huge edge in it. I mean, when it comes down to those small slates, not only are there less places to make errors for your opponent, but there's also usually one deciding factor that happens with that sort of slate. So you miss on one single player and you can't make it up elsewhere just because there's so limited options to make it up with. Whereas if you have a big slate, you're going to have 3 to 5 to 6 guys that genuinely go off, and you can kind of counterbalance an Odell Beckham game. Whereas if you have a 4-game slate and ODB goes off, there's no chance you're coming back from that.
So that's the mindset you got to take. I mean, it's not really, if you make money, great, but you shouldn't go in expecting being like, okay, like I'm going to make money.
Yeah, you shouldn't invest in it like a normal slate of another sport, like another 10-game NBA slate or 14-game NFL slate. Like it's not the same proposition. Mm-hmm. I remember last year, for example, for the divisional round, if you didn't have T.Y. Hilton, I think he had like some crazy stat line against the Chiefs. If you didn't have Hilton, your entries were just dead. Like they were just dead. Because the own percentages of those players who go off are going to be really high just based off of like the choices that are available. So that's the attitude I take towards it.
Yeah, but with that said, we'll all be playing, so definitely keep playing.
I really might not. I have more discipline than you do.
Yeah,
man.
you do have a lot more discipline than I do.
Yeah. But I mean, it is fun. What is here's unscripted. What is something that you have learned about daily fantasy football this year that you had not had in your game at the start of the season, Dan?
Oh man, that is unscripted.
Well, I can do mine.
Well, yeah, let's hear yours first.
I mean, mine is definitely just accepting a 5 for 70-yard game from a wide receiver. It was just last year when I played, I was just focusing so much on upside with wide receivers that I was missing out on values, right? Like Torrey Smith, or I guess Torrey Smith's not a good example because he's a big play guy, but just guys who are really steady, like Anquan Bolden. I never would have rostered Anquan Bolden last year, but I've had him a couple times this year, and I just think it's a interesting. I've learned a lot in terms of roster construction, basically, not having to hit a home run with every slot.
Yeah, I think the big thing that a lot of actually our writers or contributors on Fantasy Insiders have done and pointed out in their articles, that was something I typically wouldn't pay a whole lot of attention to, is even just comparing tight end to the wide receiver pool as far as where salaries fall. I think I've always kind of been a proponent of paying up for tight end, but when you do the cross comparison and you see Rob Gronkowski is the 15th highest wide receiver or 15th priced wide receiver, then I think that opens up your eyes a little bit to kind of cross compare to what you would be spending on at the wide receiver position for Gronk.
Yeah. What about you, Evan? What have you learned?
I mean, definitely the cash game versus tournament thing. Actually, I read an interview with Tuttle at one point, and he said, you really shouldn't even play tournaments at all. I mean, that's not to say that he doesn't or that you really shouldn't, or that nobody should. But it's if you want to build a bankroll, number one, or if you just want to make money on a week-to-week basis, doing a bunch of entries in GPPs really isn't the way to go about that.
Yeah, unless you're Dink and win $1 million, and then you have
really
large then you have a really large bankroll to play.
Yeah, now Dink can just multi-enter whatever GPP he wants and just tilt off. He can play a Logan Thomas team this week against Seattle, even though Logan Thomas is the backup if he wants. Must be nice. You have a Draft Street hoodie though, Dan, so you win.
I guess.
Yeah.
Anything else you guys want to say? I mean, we covered a lot.
Yeah, I mean, just talked about every player pretty much.
There are a lot of options this week, and I think that's what we touched on. I know Trevor, again, who writes our Blueprint article for us, mentioned that. But I think the biggest takeaway for me from this show, at least, is is Inman. I think Dontrell Inman is I like hearing Evan's confidence on him. I really do.
There's a lot of uncertainty there still because he's only caught a pass in one career game, and he's a 2011 undrafted free agent, and he didn't even play to start last week's game. I mean, he only got on the field because they benched Ejiro Tutu.
Dude, Rivers 3 years ago brought Eric Tutu off the bench as a UDFA
he was
with
awesome.
2 touchdowns to him.
Fact of the matter is, the guy costs $4,800, and if he catches 3 balls for 40 yards, you're going to be okay, And if he does anything other than that, you're in the green. So that's the way that you got to view it. And if he gets 0 catches, I mean that could happen too. But I really like the way that he was used in the second half. It's a high volume role. This is a must-win game for San Diego. I mean, they will play with urgency, I think. And Inman balled, and I read some quotes from Rivers on him, and I think they love him. So I think he'll be out there a lot.
I mean, I once. Never mind. We're not even going to get into it. I once paid.
You may as well now.
No, I mean I once paid $7,000 for Jordan Matthews in cash games and got a 0. So.
So you might as well get it from your.
Might as well get it from him cheaper.
Right.
Yeah. All right. I think that'll do it though. I mean, my laptop's about to die anyways. So I think. I forgot my charger.
Nice job.
Dude, holidays are the worst as a college student.
Oh, they're worse as an adult who's married.
Yeah, but I'm not going to have to deal with that, bro.
With the sick family.
I'm not going to have to deal with that, bro.
I don't know. I saw a pretty mushy Instagram post by you.
Yeah, man. I love my girlfriend a lot, but hosting...
Oh, it was very...
Dude, I'm not... You guys can call me out. I'm not ashamed of it, man. My girlfriend...
My greatest present of all. I didn't even need a present because my greatest present of all is Julia.
My girlfriend is, like, legit an amazing human being. You guys are not embarrassing me right now.
No, I'm not trying to embarrass you. I'm just saying that you're acting like it's totally out of the question, and judging by that post.
Catch me hosting a holiday party. Never, fella. Can you imagine this hair like passing out like hors d'oeuvres, bro? Never.
No, I'm just saying. The family life, it can sneak up on you, especially with the right girl. So. I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to stay tuned. But that will do it. Evan, a special thank you for coming on the show. I feel like, you've talked about like stuff that you've learned while doing the show. I think that we have learned a lot of stuff also as far as defensive matchups and that sort of thing. So big shout out to you. I know that there have been a lot of people that have tweeted their thank yous. One guy won $200,000 last week. It was pretty cool to see him mention you 3 guys.
Mostly me and Evan. People mostly tag me and Evan and forget that Dan exists.
They tagged Tuttle at the end. So.
They tagged me on that one. I got the 200. I got the 200K. Congrats.
There you go.
I'm not as dynamic of a personality as you.
Yeah, and me. I know that I take what you guys say to heart. I use the show. Davis's article.
There's been weeks where Dave has privately messaged me and been like, dude, I listened to your article and catched everything, and like I didn't listen to myself and like got swept. Yeah. So that's been fun.
So, and thank you for the premature congratulations for everybody about currently leading the Fantasy Pros Daily Fantasy Accuracy Cup.
Yeah, one more week.
No pressure on this guy. I would have to tank it really bad to lose, which is
you'd have to pull a natural slugger,
which is like my biggest fear, because now everybody knows that I was like in first place.
You would have to start Dwayne Bowe.
Yeah, that was my bad on that one.
So, yeah. All right. Well, that will do it. Evan, again, thanks for being a part of this ragtag group of individuals, and hopefully we will be hearing from you more in the future, because I know people like to hear from you. So, guys, we'll sign off, and we'll catch you next time.